All right, everyone, another prediction fulfilled. Chriscuomo is basically DOA at this point. He's been suspended from CNN. Now, the other day, link in the description to a BitChute link, I made a video predicting that Chriscuomo was toast based on the fact that The Atlantic had run an article about him saying he should resign. Now, The Atlantic is leftoid. Cuomo works for CNN. Normally, in a properly functioning democratic republic, you would expect that the press outlets would compete because they're trying to make more money. We now have a vertical monopoly of a few dozen larger groups, including some missing link media. Drudge would be on the list, The Atlantic, Vox, etc. They don't really compete. They basically just steal one another's material over and over again because they've become a wall of propaganda apparatus for the deep state. Therefore, when The Atlantic came out the other day, I didn't even realize Cuomo had been suspended a few hours before, by the way. You'll notice that in the video that I made. Even without that, if he hadn't been suspended, he'd still be toast. Here's what happened. As soon as they came out, and a few other smaller journalistic outlets too, to say Cuomo should go, the writing was on the wall because, again, because of the wall of propaganda thing, they're showing their hand. When one Legacymedia outlet puts out a story that is significant. Chriscuomo, again, left-wing commentator, brother of Andy Cuomo, works for CNN, reasonably well received there as a reporter. When one Legacymedia outlet attacks a person, you'll notice a pattern that all of the others do the same. Doesn't matter if it's someone they want to genuinely destroy, like Rittenhouse, Alex Jones, etc., because, again, they coordinate with one another to get the story out as quickly as possible, to smash a person as quickly as they can. Cuomo, though, much like Al Franken and Andy Cuomo and a few others, has been thrown under the bus. I'll tell you why this is happening. Chris Cuomo, unfortunately, is dead weight. He's not an asset anymore. There are people on the left, they probably did fucking studies about this. There are people on the left that no longer want to listen to Chris Cuomo. Partially because of the Me Too thing. His brother sexually assaulted multiple people. The allegations were accidentally given credibility by Andy himself when he apologized to a former producer, one of his former bosses. I guess he got tipsy at a party and tried to kiss her and grab her ass or something, and he apologized thereafter. The problem is that when you have a Me Too situation and you have some sort of admission of guilt, you've got the apology. All the other tales that people tell, in the public's mind, they all become real. It doesn't even matter if they are. For instance, a person is found guilty of selling drugs. In the public's mind, if it ever comes out that they've been accused of selling drugs again, well, they're guilty. They did it before. Obviously, they're still doing it now. A criminal never changes. If Andy Cuomo provably, again, because of his apology, attempted to grope a producer at his workplace, the problem is that you've got 8 or 9 other people that are claiming similar things. In the public's mind, including the right-wing public's mind, and especially among the liberals that tend to be in his audience, that makes it true. Chris Cuomo defended him vigorously. Had him on multiple times, would not report on Andy Cuomo's allegations, wouldn't say a word. CNN largely muzzled it, and so now he looks complicit. And he is. He's his brother. Of course he's going to cover for him. Who wouldn't? You've got a great situation where you're a top-level anchor at CNN. Your brother is the fucking governor of New York. It's a dream team. Andy Cuomo initially was on the short list for potential 2024 candidates because people are saying, well, Kamala can't do it. Her approval's sub 30. Biden will be 82 years old. He's a goddamn mental vegetable. I don't think that'll work out too well. Basically, if Trump decides to run at all, he wins at that point. Well, we've got to find some other people. Now they're pivoting to Buttigieg, by the way. I'll be getting into that in the New Tech exclusive, by the way, today, because that's actually hilarious and corroborates what I had been saying in the last election. Now, you have a tsunami of articles. This was my prediction fulfilled. Look up Chris Cuomo right now on any good news aggregator. I don't mean Google, although you can use that too. Dozens and dozens of articles. He's been suspended. He's deranged. He broke the public's trust. He must go. The reason they're doing this is political. You're going into a midterm season in which the economy is not going well. The DCCC, another story for today, is taking giving Biden credit for a 2-cent drop in the gas price over a couple of weeks. you've got a Democratic Party that's really hurting. You've got a swamp that is extremely vulnerable. I would argue that the establishment, based on the failures of this year, is more vulnerable than they were in 2015 and 16. I would argue they're in a weaker position. People have already got massive buyer's remorse because saying, hey, that Trump dude made mean tweets, but most of these problems weren't happening. And the Democrats' messaging is so poor that they haven't been able to pivot around these things, choose their battles wisely, and actually win any of the battles. They've lost on everything. It's looking like the big spoiler could be a Roe v. Wade decision that doesn't even involve the legislature and involves SCOTUS. Which again, if Roe v. Wade does get struck out, they'll say, well, Trump stacked the court. This is why we need to expand the court, which is something that Biden has tacitly ruled out. I don't think the Senate would go for it. It's like a near 0% chance risk. But Chris Cuomo, you think, again, like a year ago, he and Andy Cuomo and some of these other, Avenatti, were considered heroic because of Trump derangement syndrome. One by one, all of these people have fallen off due to extortion, Me Too claims, or some sort of internal corporate corruption. It's astonishing to me that people don't see this pattern. You've supposedly got a greasy, horrible, sleazy, orange Nazi administration, and yet it turns out all the sleazy people are the ones that were the most vigorous in opposing it. I think that some of these people were worried about being investigated. Only people worried about that now are people that are independent commentators. Like, I probably won't even claim any fucking write-offs on my next tax return because I just don't want to deal with it. I don't want to have to show any receipts to the IRS. I'll pay thousands of dollars more because I know that Biden is going to stack the IRS and use it politically. So be it. I pity people that aren't capable of doing that because their budget is more thin. Chris Cuomo was doomed, though, days ago. The second that The Atlantic came out and said Chris Cuomo should resign, he should be gone from his position, you knew that all the other legacy media outlets would do the same. From now on, try this. Another little prediction here. When you see a breaking story from any of the mainline outlets, Reuters, AP, the BBC, and infected British media too, even like RT sometimes, certainly anything like CNN, MSNBC, The Atlantic, Vox, etc. As soon as one breaks a story that seems to throw somebody under the bus or attack their character, look over the next 24 hours and you'll see that all the other legacy media outlets cover it. Now, it doesn't need to be particularly important. Chris Cuomo had barely been suspended. They were already writing the article a couple of hours later. Don't you think that this is a little bit odd? Fully edited and properly formatted with sources and everything. You know, it takes a little bit longer than that to get through the editorial room, generally speaking. But they decided to do a fully fleshed out article, and it's not just, hey, Chris Cuomo was suspended a few hours ago. That wouldn't necessarily be indicative of anything. It's a full article bashing the dude. I mean, he deserves it. I'm not saying that I feel sorry for him at all. It's good that he's probably out at CNN. I have a feeling the suspension will be indefinite. And if it's not, of course, half of his fans now will abandon him because, hey, you got suspended. Even your own parent company wouldn't defend you. Maybe you're a shyster and a crook. That's about all. Peace out.